we'd like to welcome each and every individual to the Voices of Integrity podcast for young men. And today we're going to be talking about a number of cool topics. 5 seconds of courage for connecting with young women. How do you make sure that you feel other young men, like if you're part of a group of young men and another young man comes in, how do you go ahead and include them? Or if you go into a new environment and you don't, you're one of the out crowd, you're not one of the in crowd. How do you go ahead and, insert yourself into a situation? And what if, what if you when you took the test, the original test, of which of these 4 shapes do you tend to like the most, or which of these 4 things cause you most frustration in any area of your life? What if you said, I don't know, I don't like any of them, or I like all of them, or I'm just confused, or I think this is a stupid test. Okay, what that kind of reveals to us is that you'd be a chameleon personality. And so one of your greatest strengths would be your flexibility. One of your weaknesses would be your flexibility. And so you when you look at these shapes psychologically, you're like, I don't know, I don't like any of them, or I like all of them. So if you're a chameleon personality, you can slide into the different energy bases of the personality. And so you can be a connector of sorts. You can, like, if you're with analytics, you're going to be really analytic. If you're going to be with drivers, you're going to be driver. If you're expressive, you're going to be expressive. If you're amiable, you're going to, like a chameleon, like the animal, like you can slide whatever environment you're in, you can play into that environment. Now, let's take a look at this socially. So I'm a driver analytic. And but when I grew up, my parents were, pastors, missionaries, and so Christian. We started churches. My dad started churches, and so started it from nothing. I mean, people ask me where I get my entrepreneurial skills. It's going to be from my parents and growing up. I mean, so I learned a lot. I learned a lot more, I think, about businesses and starting businesses, running businesses, being successful, about businesses, customer service from my parents without question, than I did with my 3 degrees, 3 college degrees in business. So I remember that, when you started church from nothing, I had 5 siblings, so there's 6 of us plus my parents, and literally we'd have a church service in our house. Like, that's where we met first. And there's like, maybe nobody would show up. It'd just be my parent. It's just our family. Now, when somebody did come, you didn't have all the programs that attract people to a church. We didn't have children's programs. We didn't have, teenage programs, young adult programs. We didn't have marriage. All it is a small, tiny, itty bitty group of people. So when somebody comes into the church, you learn how to take initiative, even if you're a driver analytic. Like, I have social autism. What's that? Well, it's, if I think somebody's stupid, I just tell them that. Like, I'm just too honest with people. And I just tell them what I'm thinking, and people don't like that. I still haven't figured it out. Just recently turned 60 years old. And I still don't, I cannot understand why people don't like honesty. It just doesn't make sense. But anyways, it is what it is, right? So when you're with a group, for example, we have Kenny and Luke, and they're both, Amish. And then, Adam, he's from Pakistan. Now I've told, Kenny and Luke that Adam will help them in their business. I told them to reach out to Adam. My guess is they probably haven't. Would that be fair to say, Kenny and Luke?
Yes.
Okay. So, I've mentored you guys. I've invested a lot into you guys. There's some amount of advice that's been pretty good. You guys have gotten a lot further along. in a number of things because of, so why do you think you guys haven't, followed my direction on that? And Luke, you can participate too.
We don't see the value.
Okay. And not only do you not see the value, right, but you don't trust me.
Ooh. I'm not committed.
What's that?
I'm not committed to you.
Well, I don't know, you don't trust me because, trust isn't needed until there's a disagreement, right? If we go out and do something, like if I say, hey, I think we ought to do this, and you guys agree, there's no trust that's needed. So trust isn't needed until there's a difference of opinion or disagreement. Adam, I've helped you start your own company in Pakistan. I'm the first American you've ever met in your life. So I've helped you a lot. I've asked you to reach out to Kenny and Luke, and you haven't. Do you know why, Adam, you haven't done what I've recommended, suggested, asked you to do?
Probably that would be eating the frog situation for me.
So if you're not familiar with eating the frog, this is what I love about Adam. He's a sharp guy. He got a cool sense of humor. He really is. And so so the eating of the frog is that you just do it. You just do things. It's like the 5 seconds of courage. When my 25-year-old son, when he was a teenage boy, naturally, as most teenage boys are, or maybe all teenage boys are, they're terrified of girls. Now, some teenage boys don't look like they're terrified, but they're showing off or whatever. And so they're showing off because they're terrified of girls. So if you see a really cute girl or one that you're really drawn to, and you go ahead and you're afraid of connecting with her, you need 5 seconds of courage. Just do it. She's more afraid of you than you are probably of her. Seriously. And she's not going to want to show it, just like you're not going to show it. And so if you're not part of a group, and so yesterday, we're on vacation in Florida, we have a beautiful place, and there's a swimming pool, in-ground swimming pool, and it's heated, and my wife and I are here, and so celebrated my birthday. And then we have our 2 granddaughters, so our daughter and her husband, and then 2 granddaughters who are 3 and 2. And so yesterday we went out and we actually met up with Kenny and his buddy, and we went to the beach and had a great conversation, a deep conversation. If you haven't, watched that podcast yet, definitely you want to do that. How do you have deep conversations? We were in the pool a couple of days ago for 3 hours having a deep conversation, going all the way back into childhood. I mean, it was really, really, really cool. Well, we decided to stop for, we live in Indiana. We decided to stop for ice cream. And all of a sudden, this guy comes up, and there's these scooters, motorized scooters that this guy's renting out. And all of a sudden, Jason my son-in-law turns over and says, "Hey, John." Hey, Jason. So we're, from Indiana, but we go ahead and all of a sudden, this guy, and Jason's in his early 30s and this guy's in his early 30s, they start up a conversation. Now, again, on vacation, eating, I'm eating a banana split. My granddaughters are sitting next to me eating ice cream. I'm having a good time. I'm not, I'm not opposed to talking to people, but I'm not there to talk to them. I'm not really even trying. And all of a sudden, Jason, like, this is my father-in-law, we introduced, they start talking, and I'm just kind of eating my, banana split. Short story, he was very interested in me. He was interested in what I did. He was interested in what kind of business I had. And, that one conversation, I could make him hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, and he could make me. So he wants to meet up. He wants to talk. And he's, married, been married for 3 years. They just 9 months ago had twin boys that they have. And he just left a full-time job at the factory and venturing out on his own. Interesting guy, liked him a lot. So what you do is you find things that have commonality. You talk, the one subject it seems like everybody wants to talk about is going to be themselves. So, tell me what you do, tell me your story, it's learning how to ask questions. It's learning how to connect. So if I was, one of the things that Adam says that he really appreciates about me is, that I care about his family. And so, I care about his family. And so I ask, how's your parents doing? How's your sister Zoe doing? How's your brother Ronnie doing? And so, like, for me, that's not that big of a deal. But for Adam, it is. And so I try to get to know people and their family and what's their passions and what are they interested in. And John yesterday said, that's a great question, 3 times or more. And so it's just, I don't know, to me, it's just being interested in the person. Now, how am I interested? That goes back to my, spiritual belief system. That goes back to my spiritual belief system. So, I'm Christian. I don't push my Christianity on other people, but I enjoy, like, Adam's Muslim, and I love learning about other belief systems. Why, what is it about Muslim? What is it? We met a gentleman yesterday after I played pickleball, and he's been very, very, very successful in business. And we didn't even talk about that, but he's a bishop, in the Amish. So I had a whole bunch of questions about the bishops, and about the Amish and how rules are made and how it functions and all kinds of stuff. So you just kind of envision, a 3-year-old boy, he just asks questions. He's just interested. Grandpa, why is this? Grandpa, why is that? Grandpa, look at this and look at that. Bless their hearts. They were, my daughter and her daughter were in a bathroom or a restroom. And, kids are so innocent at the beach. And she's like, Mommy, why does that lady have purple feet? They're just, people are too. And she was older and she had varicose veins and stuff like that. And so kids are just curious. And so you guys need to be curious about one another. Elaine, we were talking about where she's teaching her children, when somebody new comes to the church or school or whatever, go ask them and say, hey, would you like to come with us? And so a child comes to, and they're new. So that's just good parenting, volleyball. Hey, would you like to go ahead and come and play volleyball or just watch us play? So you include people in. They're an outsider. So we have empathy for them. And so, and she said, her kids are pretty good. She has 5 children. Her oldest is 14. And they have empathy for, hey, so, Adam, he's from Pakistan. I'm the first American that he's ever met in his life. Imagine that. That's pretty interesting. So he doesn't have the confidence, but he's going to be just like Kenny and Luke in so many different areas. And the Pakistani and how they structure their stuff is very similar, actually, in many ways to the Amish. So you find things of commonality and you embrace those things. You ask questions of Like, how were you raised and what's the school? What are you going to college for? And what have you learned? And, and then you just have those kind of conversations. Elaine said, one of the things that she struggles with her kids where they haven't been successful, she doesn't feel she's been successful, is when they go to a new church or a new group of, people, and what if they're the outsiders? What if her kids are the outsiders? That's harder, right? But with me, like when they invited me to, come to their kids' school program, there's all Amish. There's like 200 Amish, and I'm the only English, which is non-Amish, and so I'm there, and nobody kind of sits by my wife or I. Like, we got this little bubble around us. So nobody sits around us. It's just us. Now the kids, this is what's interesting about kids, because kids are just curious by nature. So they might look at me and they might smile and I'll smile back. And, the first one I went to, so I found commonality. And then all of a sudden there's an elderly, an older Amish gentleman. And, they tend to be, older men. They're going to maybe have more confidence, and he's, hey, why are you here? So I don't need to push myself on them. But all of a sudden we have this great conversation, and he says, hey, you can come over to my house anytime. So I'm not a naturally social person. People go ahead and find that hard to believe. They say, I'm an introvert. A driver analytic is an introvert. An expressive is an extrovert. And so I've just learned that people are interesting. So I've just learned people are interesting, but to draw out that interesting, I've got to be curious about them. And so I think when a lot of English go ahead and are around Amish, I think that the English might feel that the Amish don't like them, but I have not found that to be true at all. Or that the Amish are arrogant, like they're better than other people. I have not found that to be true. There's a story that I heard about an Amish gentleman, and an older guy, and he was with his grandson, and he's out by the road, and a couple came by in the car, and they went ahead and they stopped and they said, hey, we're moving from, out of state, and we're moving here. And we were wondering if this community was a friendly community. And the older grandfather Amish guy said, well, did you find your last community to go ahead and be welcoming and opening? And they said, yeah, they were very much. He said, I think you'll find this community be the same way. And they drove off. And again, the grandson, he's like 6 years old, and he's just, watching grandpa. And all of a sudden another couple drive up and they say, hey, we're moving from another area, and we were wondering if this community is a good community, friendly community. And he said, so did, the community you're moving from, were they a friendly community? And they say, no, not really, not so much. And he said, well, you'll probably find this community to be the same. And when they drove away, the little grandson said, Grandpa, you said something totally different. Like, it's the same community, but you told them totally different. And he kind of smiled. He said, we are what we make things to be. So the first couple, they found out they made it to be that way, and they found out that's what it was. The second couple, they found out, they had a different experience. And so there's going to be whatever it's going to be. So, questions or thoughts that any of you guys have?
No.
So there's so many thoughts you guys could have. So I have found that just like with girls, when you're around people who are different than you, raised different belief systems, different educational systems, different whatever systems, different, if they perceive that there's a difference, they're more afraid of you than you are of them. And so with me, when I go into a group of Amish or, Pakistani or, like if I'm around a bunch of Muslims or Buddhists or atheists, like, they're scared of me more than I am of them. And so it does help some to be a grandfather, but I learned back when I was just a kid, or be welcoming, be interesting, like make sure people feel interest, feel valued, make sure people say, wow. And it was funny because I don't know, probably 30 years ago, there's this young couple, Mike and Debbie Casper. I'll leave this with one last lesson. So my wife and I, so imagine being a young married couple, like 21 years old. We were both 21 and we were working our way through college. So we didn't have help. We had to pay for our own college. And so she's in college, I'm in college, having tons of fun, but not liking I don't like the classroom, the educational part. But anyways, we started a cleaning business. And so it's residential, commercial cleaning business. And so we had, the name of it was Grandma B's Cleaning Services, the specialists in cleaning with the old fashioned touch. It was just really, so that's, how we helped fund our way through college. And we had that brings back the Florida memory. So we had a policy that if there was a complaint and we didn't respond in 24 hours, that's just good customer service. So you treat all the people around you like valuable customers and people will tend to be drawn to you. Anyway, Mike and Deb Casper called us and complained about the cleaning. And at that point, we didn't have any employees. It was just my wife and I. And we went ahead and we were going there. My wife, I think one of the rooms wasn't clean to Debbie's care, specifics. And we were driving there and Rosanna was crying. She's like, I worked so hard and I can't believe. So she took it personal. I didn't. I'm like, well, people have different tastes. We'll go and clean it up. So I'm like, all things work together for good, honey. This thing will turn into something that's a lifelong, like it's fine, like it's okay. So I went in approaching, man, this is going to be a great situation. And so we go there and we clean it up, we apologize, make sure it's right. And then all of a sudden they're a young couple too, same age, a little older than us, but same situation, young couple, no kids. And all of a sudden I starts talking to Mike and he owns his own company. He's a CPA and he also was in the mortgage industry. And so a short story, long story short, I got into the mortgage industry because of Mike Casper. They became lifelong friends. We went ahead and we invited them to our church. First Sunday they came, there were maybe 20 people in the church, not a lot, kind of struggling. And Debbie just went up and started playing the piano because my mom typically did that. And so just went up and started playing the piano. And then they introduced us to Greg and Patty Sutton. And Greg and Patty Sutton became partners to start Synergy Solutions. So all of these things happened, because of good customer service. All of these things happened because I had an attitude that it's okay to get a complaint. It's how we handle it that matters. And then we're looking for opportunities. So often what seems good can be bad and what seems bad can be good. It's our perspective. So all these experiences. So, whatever age you are as a young man, this season in life is going to pass and there's going to be another season. If you're afraid of girls, it's okay. if you have, if a girl has broken your heart, you will heal. Like maybe another podcast will talk about, the first young lady I fell in love with, literally. I mean, I was in love with her. I was 16 years old. I have broken heart. She just broke my heart. And so it's okay. You'll heal and you'll become stronger. And you'll be very, very happy for that experience. And there'll be another young lady that will come along and she will win your heart. So lots of stories. Hopefully this is helpful to each one of you. Definitely register for the Life GPS mobile app. I'll definitely register for that. And that'll get you into the community. You'll be introduced to somebody who can mentor you in this group. And so for sure do that. If you have any questions, if you're struggling as a young man, and you're depressed or maybe even suicidal, definitely reach out. There's hope for tomorrow. There really, really, really is. If you have any questions, connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300. Outside the US, 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.